It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, November 22nd, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on SoundCloud and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Health is Happiness, the Foundational Figures Word Study, and of course comments, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Wednesday. Hope you guys have been enjoying your week. It's already hump day, the middle of the week. Don't forget, we have an amazing service tonight. And of course, tomorrow is Q&A Thursday. So get those questions ready and send them to me whenever you can, all right? So if you haven't yet, leave your like and comment. Build this community. Just, for this video itself, leave a like there. I think we pulled the record in of over 50 likes on the last one. So I think we can do even better on this video here. So leave a like, leave a comment. We'd be super happy for everyone joining us as you join us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. Sunday message title, two titles. The first one is God's Voice. I leave after completing all the work. And then the second title is The Law of Love, in which God treats each person according to what they have done. Okay. So here I am, guys. I am in Taiwan right now. At the moment, I'm inside the apartment and just recording. I haven't really had a full setup yet, so you guys can hear a little bit of echo in the background because it's a very large room. So I do need to tinker around with a little bit more. So I am speaking a little bit more quietly for two reasons. Number one is if I speak too loud, then you can hear the echo, like the reverb, the echo really loudly if I speak louder. And the second reason is because from the volleyball tournament, I've lost my voice. So I can't really speak that loud. Well, I can, but then I'm not going to recover. My voice is not going to recover anyway. So that's why I'm kind of speaking like this. So I'm in Taiwan and I was just exhausted because, like I told you yesterday, I was recording like at 3:30 in the morning. And, I didn't sleep at all the night before. At like 4:45, someone dropped me off in Daejeon, and that's like an hour ride. I slept for like 45 minutes of it, and then the train was 55 minutes to the airport train station, but it's not the last stop. So I was really scared I would miss my stop. So I think I slept for like 20 minutes, but I was kind of like a nervous wreck, like, oh no, I'm so tired, I can't miss this stop. And at one point, I heard like, this is the next stop. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I just quickly ran out of the train, right? And thank God I asked the train operator. I was like, hey, this is the airport stop. He's like, oh, no, you have two more stations. So he put me back onto the train. If I missed that, I wouldn't even make it to the airport on time. So I got to the airport. The 10-minute walk, from the station to the airport, which is really close. It's a 10-minute walk. Freezing, and I didn't even have a jacket because I gave the jackets back. My hands were basically like frozen, and tiny airport. Like there's nothing there to buy or eat, whatever it is. But I got on the plane safely, thank God. I slept on the plane for about 2 hours, and then I arrived in Taiwan. And one of the things I was so thankful for, I got a 2-hour massage. Like 30 minutes on 30-minute foot massage, and then 90 minutes on like a full body oil massage. And I'm very, very relaxed right now, like super relaxed. And now I'm doing this podcast. It's around like 7:30 p.m. right now. So it's a very godly hour compared to the last 2 days that I was doing it in Korea, right? So, I actually wanted to bring this up because this was a very interesting conversation I had on my last day in Korea. And I was talking to a couple of SS leaders, and a very, very interesting conversation. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this too. But of course, they're SS leaders, and they have the SS in their hearts, and they really love the SS that much. But they were so upset because KJS doing the superstar services and leading the SS, and then doing all this bad stuff. Like all this bad stuff is like This one SS leader is like, how can they do that they're just kids. They're innocent. Like, how could you like do such a thing and then like really, traumatize these kids, right? They're all going to go through like such a traumatic experience. And then they're giving me examples of some kids who just like, at this moment, they look unrecoverable. Like they went through the craziness and they're so shocked by all the things that they heard. And now they're just like, it's like they're unrecoverable because they were, the Superstar Services were together with AJ. All the kids were so happy. They made videos with her. She made it really, really fun and stuff like that too. And like if you think about it this way, even look how shocked we are. And we're adults and we're shocked by what is happening. Some of us are even traumatized by it. But then imagine how much more traumatized it would be for SS and campus that go through this, right? Those that really trusted her, that believed in her. And, like we trusted her and we put our faith like this is God's history. And then we see something like this happen. It could be very traumatizing. So if it affects us this much, like remember last Thursday's podcast, I kind of talked about all the things that were, it's a very public article that almost everyone, like I think a ton of people in Korea already know about and more. But when I talked about this very public thing, like we were so shocked. So imagine, like I'm 45 and shocked by it. Can you imagine what these kids are going through? They're just so innocent. And this SS leader was telling me that they prayed and for the first time complaining to God, like kind of grumbling, like, how can we let these kids go through this? Like they're so innocent. But later, during the conversation, she said something so profound. And she said later she repented to God. And because one of the things she realized was that these difficulties that these kids go through, it's going to build them and it's going to make them stronger, right? And it's kind of like we all know this. Like when we go through the difficulties, we learn, we overcome, and we become stronger through it. And I thought to myself, is like, man, think about this. All the SS that overcome remain after 2023. Can you imagine how powerful and strong these kids are going to be in the future? Our kids, our future is going to be strong and bright. And there's nothing to worry about. It's just like the Ambition masterpiece. Every time it crumbled, we build it stronger. It crumbles, we build it stronger. And when we look at these SS kids, we might be thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, they're so young, they're so weak. But the answer is no. These kids that make it through, and there's a lot of them that are making it through, they are going to be that much more stronger and brighter, and God is going to make them even more through this experience. And when you think about this, we're going to have some powerful leaders in the future. Like this is something that we can say that, man, these kids that went through this, when they become leaders, they're going to lead us through even more difficult times, and they're going to be even better at it because they've been through this. And it really dawned on me when I heard this from this SS leader. I was like, yeah, sometimes we forget the principles that we're taught. And we start to think more physically like, oh, they're just children. No, children shouldn't go through difficulties like this. But reality is, we know the principle that we go through difficulties and we grow through them. We become stronger, incredibly resilient, right? And the conviction grows. And if you think about these children, 2023 that make it through this, in 10 to 15 years, they are the ones leading churches. They are the ones leading countries. And we're going to be led by a great generation that is even stronger than ours. Why? Because we're going to get strong through 2023. But, we're mature and older, and we're not going to be as phased or emotional about it. But these kids, these SS in campus, can you imagine how powerful they become? They're going to be amazing, and we're going to be led by a great generation of new leaders that have been through the darkest times. And I think this is something that we should really be thinking about. We should be praying for these SS, praying for these campus to overcome. And when they overcome this difficulty, they are going to become great leaders in the future. So I am excited about this for sure. So that is something that when I heard that I was going to talk about this yesterday, but I wasn't in my right mind. Yesterday, I wasn't in my right mind. Like I had at a certain point, like remember, like twice yesterday, I lost my train of thought. It was just I was so exhausted. But today I'm in a much brighter training. My train of thought is much better than yesterday. So I am very, very grateful and thankful that I got that 2-hour massage. Yeah. For those of you guys who don't know that Sunsteam had his trial, well, here's an interesting thing. I know that the trial has been going on for at least 9 hours. So I'm not sure if it's still going on now, but it's at least 9 hours, and it's been going on. It's been going at least 9 hours so far. There's been questioning of some witnesses, and I don't think we're expected to get any sentencing until next month. So I believe the next trial will be December 20th. So I hope that all of us can really, really pray for this trial. December 20th is the next one, I believe. Okay. The only sad thing that I heard so far is the prosecution is asking for 30 years for Sunsteam. Like to go to prison for 30 years. Like that's what they're asking for. But let's wait and see what happens. And, I'm not sure exactly. I don't have a full update of what happened in the trial because I think it could still be going on right now. But I hope that we'll have a much more detailed article by next week's Provi in the media. And we'll have some more time to pray about this too. So for me, I'm super excited about my time in Taiwan. And there's something very interesting that I noticed about like social media. Like, I know so many people in Taiwan because of social media, because of Instagram. Isn't that kind of interesting? Like this is one of the big things I like about social media. One of the tools it does is networking and connections that are made. Of course, there are many bad things about social media, but this is one of the good things, just meeting people, connecting with them. And I looked at like, wow, this is really, really amazing. And I thought to myself is like, yeah, I would already on like Instagram, people are already contacting me. I'm contacting them. We're talking, about, what we can do when we meet. And we just contact each other without formally meeting either because our Instagrams have our pictures on it, which I think is fine too, right? It's a way of networking, socializing, and I'm meeting a ton of people. Well, social media is either through Instagram or YouTube. People will contact, people will hear about, people know me from this podcast and they contact me usually through like some social like chatting app, but a lot of people contact me through Instagram and stuff like that also. But one of the reasons why I'm really excited about Taiwan is because Taiwan is one of the big three, right? It's Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. And I think there's anywhere between 4,000 to 5,000 members. And this country is strong in faith. They've really, like the level they're at, they've upgraded so much in their faith, their churches. They have like large churches, I believe over 1,000 people in the largest church. And for me, both Japan and Taiwan are very, very great examples for foreign countries. Of course, in the future, we do need like the Western country examples, which we don't have yet, but we at least have an example of what a country could look like outside of Korea that's doing really well and that's successful, right? That's Japan and Taiwan. And they're very different in character, like the way the country character is. And someone was actually telling me that each country's character is like a girl and a guy, right? So can you guys guess which is which? One would be more emotional, more passionate, more fiery, more female-like, right? The passion, the emotion, while the other is more organized, reasonable, and logical. And I think it's pretty easy to say that Japan is much more logical, organized, and reasonable. And they're kind of, I guess they would be more like the guy. I'm thinking, that's just my thoughts. I don't even remember which one they said, but that's just my thoughts. And I look at Taiwan as very fiery, more passionate, fiery. And I think they're more like the girl. Right? Emotional swings, really great. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to get myself into trouble here in Taiwan already. But, there was another interesting conversation that I had today with someone else. And we talked about what would happen if Sunsteam came out. Like, of course, that'd be crazy, awesome, and amazing. But we would this person brought up a point that I thought was really interesting. And I want you to really think about this carefully is if he comes out, should females be allowed near him? And you know what I mean, right? Like, it's a valid point. I'm not saying that all females are bad, but it's just kind of where the problems are constantly coming from. And I'm not saying women are the problem. I don't want to put myself into a bad spot right now. I'm just saying that all the accusations are just coming from women, and it's from a very, very small minority. And the hard part is we don't know, we have no idea who's going to betray. We don't, right? And, it's like, just to be safe, would you guys be okay with a rule like that? What would you guys think? Because I think there's two options, right? Or maybe you could do a mix of both. Because I was thinking, like, it's either that or you record every single thing he does, even private meetings, which, if it's private, do you really want your stuff to be aired? Like, later in the future, something else happens, you want your stuff to be coming out in the news and stuff? So, it's very, very interesting, but it is an interesting point, right? Because, of course, if I was a girl, I'd be like, that's kind of unfair. However, I'm thinking only like spiritually right now. Like, there's that, you have the 4 different types of sins. You have the hereditary, you have the collective sin, you have the self-induced, and what's the other one? And the fall, right? But there's a collective sin, and it's not because it's the girl's fault, like all girls, but it's just because that's the situation. But my question to the girls out there would be, would you be okay with that? That's my thing. Like, do you ever want this to happen again? And we're all going to say, we never want this to happen again. And if you're like, well, are you okay with it? Or do you have another idea that you think would be a better solution? Like, of course, I'm not saying that girls can never get close to him. But I would have to say that for me, it would be like the only time girls could ever get close to him would be in a very, very public setting. And that's it. Like, nothing else. Right? So that's just my thought. And it wasn't even me that brought it up. It was actually a girl that brought this up. And they were just saying to me, like, I would rather have that just to see him preach again. I just want to see him preach. I don't want him to go through this again. And I'm like, yeah, that's so true. But it is a very harsh thing. Like, imagine, so it seems like no more girls around me. Like, because that's where all the problems came from, kind of thing, right? So that's something I find quite interesting, and I think it's something that we have to realize all the more. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Yesterday's poll, very, very interesting one. We were talking about where are you now, right? Now we're close to the end of the year. We're about just about 8 days away from December, right? So the question is, where are you now? And a big chunk, 46%, about half of us that are listening, we have a small fire, but it's burning brighter and brighter, which is very, very hopeful. And I thought, wow, that's great, right? But then we have 20% is still struggling, but getting better, which is also hopeful, because struggling, but getting better. And then after that, 15% is on fire, which is awesome. And then 13% is same as usual. And just kind of like the other polls we've had in the past, the ones that are struggling the most, it's becoming smaller and smaller. It's only 6%, right? So even for me listening to this, it's very, very hopeful. Sorry, guys. It's I lost my voice, so I can't really... I have to clear my throat every once in a while and stuff like that too. But just letting you know that that's that's why I'm speaking softly, and that's why I do clear my throat every once in a while. Sorry if it goes into the mic. Before we get into our first break of the day, we get into our second segment, which is the foundational figures in Christian history. Today we're going to go over a very, very famous figure. His name is Clement of Rome, and he was a bishop that lived at the time of Paul and Peter. And Clement was taught personally by Paul and Peter about Jesus' life, right? So can you imagine how amazing that would be? So it's an incredible thing, but we'll get into him after this first break of the day. right, so let's get into today's word study where we go into foundational figures of Christianity. And today we're going to talk about a figure, Clement of Rome. Now, we don't want to confuse this with Clement of Alexandria, and that's someone else we'll go over at another time. But Clement of Rome came in within the first 300 years of early Christian history, right? So like I said before, Clement of Rome, like this guy was taught personally about Jesus by Apostle Paul and Apostle Peter, right? So he was one of the first century converts. Incredible privilege to learn from Paul and Peter. So if you look even in the New Testament, like in the book of Philippians chapter 4, you'll see that a Clement is referred to, which some scholars say that this is Clement of Rome. Okay, so what happened? Let's go into his story. So after Paul and Peter were martyred in Rome, Clement became a leader and bishop of the church there. Now, you can visit the church of San Clemente in Rome today, thought to be built over Clement's house. Now, tradition has it that about 100 AD, he was martyred by being cast into the sea and tied to an anchor. But there's not much detail about Clement of Rome, but some of his writings provide valuable insight into the early church. So his letter to the church at Corinth may be the earliest document we have outside the New Testament. Right, so you guys know how Paul wrote letters to the church at Corinth, and they were just dealing with terrible problems, tearing apart the young church in that really like carnal, physical, sexual city. So these problems kept persisting, and Clement sent a masterful letter to the Corinthians, and he reconciled everyone into peace, renewed their faith, and proclaimed the doctrine he had recently received from the apostles. Right? So the discord in Corinth had apparently flared up when a group of younger church leaders removed some of the older church leaders. Okay? So factions and petty arguments developed around the two groups, and Clement was writing to deal with, all these arguments and fighting and squabbles, right? So Clement warned that strife within the church is caused by envy, and the scriptures show that that envy produces evil, right? And envy even caused Cain to slay Abel, Joseph's brothers to sell him into bondage, Saul to pursue David. Envy basically alienated wives from their husbands, overthrown great cities, and rooted up mighty nations. But the scriptures also show that in every age, the Lord will grant repentance to those who turn to him. So there's think about stories like Noah and Jonah. Very great examples about the Lord will grants repentance to those that turn, right? So with love and compassion, Clement urged his readers to, number one, be of humble mind. 2, laying aside all haughtiness. 3, lay aside all their pride and foolishness and angry feelings. So he was very especially mindful of the words of the Lord Jesus, which he spoke about, teaching about meekness and long suffering. Okay, so Clement of Rome, he reasoned that since none of our thoughts are hidden from God, we should seek to obey him rather than follow the human leaders of any faction. And because we have hope in the resurrection, we should live lives of purity and righteousness. So Clement is someone who emphasized that we're not justified by our own understanding, our own works, or our own godliness, but we are justified by our faith, right? Which God has justified all of us through that, right? And because of our justification and all God has done for us, we have to be those that go out with all your energy, with all your readiness to perform every good work. So for Christians, he basically promoted, he said that there's no reason for selfishness or self-promotion. Christians should work together in all harmony and peace. So he sounds like someone who's, preaching the same message Sunstein's preaching too, right? So Clement then encouraged the young men in Corinth to repent of their strife and disruption, which discouraged many within the church. And he further urged the Corinthians to pray for those who have fallen into sin, that meekness and humility may be given to them so that they may submit not to humans, but to the will of God, right? So, we can easily, one of the problems that we do have is when we look at the early Christian church, we tend to kind of make it ideal. Like we idealize the early church and think that they were so amazing. Their fellowship was pure and untroubled, right? There was no problems going on. But Clement kind of reminds us that they struggled with the same temptations that we do today, right? In fact, if you look at Clement's letters, it suggests that the deaths of Apostle Peter and Paul were probably brought about due to envy and strife among Christians. And what Clement wrote was, through jealousy and envy, the greatest and most righteous pillars, Peter and Paul, were persecuted and contended unto death. And one of the great Christian historians named Tacitus commented that there were occasions when some Christians were arrested based on information supplied by other Christians. So that kind of stuff was actually going on during that time of the early Christian church. Now, Clement's letters to the Corinthians continued to be read in the Corinthian church as part of the liturgy for many years. And the letters he wrote was popular among other churches throughout the ancient Roman world as well, right? So this is coming from Clement of Rome. He doesn't have a very big story, but he played a very integral role. He was a man, but he knew Peter and Paul. He had the heart that leaders, that pastor's heart, that shepherding heart for all Christians. And he became a great source of strength and guidance for the early churches, right? So when you read Clement's letter, there's a prayer at the conclusion of it. And basically, scholars say that this prayer it easily spans the centuries to become a prayer for Christians today. And what he prayed was, may God, who seeth all things, and who is the ruler of all spirits and the Lord of all flesh, who chose our Lord Jesus Christ and us through him to be a peculiar people, grant to every soul that calleth upon his glorious and holy name, faith, fear, peace, patience, long-suffering, self-control, purity, and sobriety to the well-pleasing of his name, through our high priest and protector, Jesus Christ, by whom be to him glory and majesty and power and honor, both now and forevermore. Amen. Right? So, if you want to read Clement of Rome's complete first letter to the Corinthians, it's been reprinted as part of Christian History Institute series of it's a classic thing. You can find it online and stuff too. So this is Clement of Rome. Doesn't have a very, very big story, but he played a very integral role keeping the early church together, and his letter, very, very powerful right now. Even today is still being read, but I really like how he's showing us, I think we kind of sometimes have that idealistic complaint, like, this is the history of God, this is providence, why are there so many problems, why is this happening, why is there no harmony, and we kind of idealize what the early Christian church was like. But what Clement's telling us is it was far from ideal. They were struggling just as much as we are right now in this history. And it's all part of the process too. So I thought it's a very big and important point for us to know, living in this history also, that, we're going to go through the ups and downs. It's just going to be part of it. Okay? So it's a little bit short, but there it is, guys. That is today's foundational figures word study. And these are big foundational figures of Christianity. Of course, we're excluding the major ones, like the 12 apostles and Jesus, because we already did a bunch of them. So we're going to go into these foundational figures of Christianity, whether it's in the early church or modern Christianity. Okay? So, before today we do have Health is Happiness with Yuen Yu from Singapore. She got a bunch of episodes coming up too, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. But before we get into it, let's get into the second break of the day.
就是真正的爱。那美妙的旋律不断回到我耳际，是全能神所赐的礼物，只为了对我说我爱你。 I can feel this love， 不能感受那份爱渐渐深入我心中。 I can feel this love， 全能神赐我一切所有，我爱你。这就是爱，黄昏满天彩霞，散发出粉红光。这就是爱，田野朵朵娇花，透露淡淡的花香。轻轻地敲动心房，悄悄地叩响心门，这就是让灵的爱。 看似一成不变，平凡无奇我生活，也是神灵所赐的礼物，只为了对我说我爱你。I can feel this love， 不能感受那份爱渐渐深入我心中。I can feel this love， 全能神赐我一切所有，我爱你。I can feel this love， this love。I can feel this love， this love。I can feel this love， 不能感受那份爱渐渐深入我心中。I can feel this love， 全能神赐我一切所有，我爱你。I can feel this love， 不能感受那份爱渐渐深入我心中。I can feel this love， 全能神赐我一切所有，我爱你。I can feel this love，this love。I can feel this love，this love。I can feel this love，this love。I can feel this love，this love。
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today. And every Wednesday we do have Health is Happiness. It's Yuen Yu from Singapore. She's studying physiotherapy. She's doing a lot of great episodes right now. And today we're going to finish off the series on injuries, right? And today she's going to talk about the difference between physiotherapy and like chiropractors, right? When it comes to musculoskeletal injuries, but it might be kind of foreign for all of us to understand what this all means, but of course, she's going to talk all about it in today's episode. So everyone, please welcome all the way over from Singapore. This is Yuen Yu with Health is Happiness.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuen Yu and I'm from Singapore. I'm currently finishing up my studies in physiotherapy. On today's topic of Health is Happiness, I will be talking more about the differences between physiotherapy and chiropractic especially for musculoskeletal problems, and I'll provide a objective sharing on both sides in order to give everyone a bit more information if there is a need for you to see either one to resolve an injury or any musculoskeletal problem. I'd like to give thanks to the Holy Trinity for this platform and for this opportunity, as well as Julius and Pastor Sky for this platform. And as a disclaimer, this is general health information, general health advice, especially if you have a serious injury, please do seek medical attention. Firstly, what are musculoskeletal problems? These refer to conditions that affect muscles, joints, bones, and sometimes other connective tissues like ligaments, tendons, and even the nerves. Common musculoskeletal problems include neck pain, back pain, radiculopathy, which refers to a nerve-related condition, shoulder pain, which includes rotator cuff-related shoulder pain, frozen shoulder, elbow pain, which includes golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, wrist pain, such as carpal tunnel syndrome, hip pain, knee pain, which includes osteoarthritic knee, patellofemoral pain syndrome, in short PFPS, patellar tendinopathy, as well as ankle and foot conditions, which include ankle sprains, Achilles tendinopathy, and plantar fasciitis. Next, how do we choose between physio or chiro? Fundamentally, the key factor is that it depends on which condition you have. For some conditions, physiotherapy might be better. For some, chiropractic might be better. And for some, going to both is fine. You may want to talk to a doctor who can refer you on to either physio or chiropractic depending on where you live, as doctors can help to clear red flags, which are referring to more serious conditions, and these conditions are mainly resolved through medical treatment, which physio and chiro cannot do or is not within that field. Now I'll share a bit more about the definitions and the origin of physiotherapy versus chiropractic. For both, they both conduct assessments to diagnose. They both also treat and manage discomfort like pain and stiffness using non-invasive and non-surgical methods like education, exercise, manual therapy, manipulations. In order for one to go back to discomfort-free movement and being able to do what you used to do. For manual therapy and manipulations, they can include things like low amplitude thrust, which you might not see very often in social media, but perhaps the more commonly seen ones are the cracking of bones, or the more, also known as the more higher amplitude thrusts that result in the cracking of bones. And that is something that a chiropractor does a bit more, which I'll elaborate below. Both physio and chiro also may treat similar conditions, and for both, a number of sessions are likely necessary depending on the severity of the condition and how compliant you are with the homework, which includes things like exercise, lifestyle modifications. Each session also usually lasts about 20 to 60 minutes. For the origin, physiotherapy originated in the 1800s, where this person, known as Per Henrik Ling, he was a Swedish doctor, poet, and lecturer, and he was the one who pioneered the teaching of anatomically and physiologically based exercises for medical purposes in Sweden. And with regards to the term physiotherapy, it was coined by Edward Plater, who was a Canadian, and he was a physician, a public health reformer, an editor, and author. Whereas for chiropractic was started by D.D. Palmer, who was a medical healer who formulated the vertebral subluxation theory in 1895. The profession was actually developed by his son, B.J. Palmer, and later on for both physio and chiro, they were licensed and regulated in terms of a profession in certain places. Moving on to physio, the definition and the way that it's practiced, it is practiced in a variety of settings. From besides just musculoskeletal, it's also practiced in cardiopulmonary, which refers to heart and lung conditions, neurological conditions, which refers to brain-related conditions, and also general wards in hospitals. It is also practiced as musculoskeletal physiotherapy in outpatient clinics, private clinics, and also in the sporting population. Which means there's also different types of physiotherapists that focus on the above specialties. The main treatment for physiotherapy includes things like education and exercises, and physiotherapy also involves other treatment techniques, which include heat or ice pack, massage, manipulations, but they tend to be focused on the lower amplitude ones. Also, there are electrophysical agents like ultrasound and electrotherapy, which is used as other treatment techniques. When are these other treatment techniques used? It is normally used on a case-to-case basis. If, for instance, someone has a very bad back strain and the muscles at the back of their back area is very tense, it's very tight, then massage or hot pack can be used to relieve pain in the short term, and then exercises that the physio can teach would help to relieve the pain and maintain that condition for the long term because the back can get stronger. Moving on to chiropractic. For chiropractic, it is a licensed and regulated profession, but only in certain countries at the moment. For instance, in Singapore, chiropractic isn't recognized as an allied healthcare profession, hence it is not a regulated profession, but the chiropractitioners in Singapore or in the various places do go through vigorous training and education before they can practice. Chiropractic is also more focused on treating conditions relating to the spine and might not have as big of a variety of conditions that they treat when compared to physio. The main treatment techniques also include more on the manipulations, the higher amplitude manipulations to reduce pain and improve your mobility in the short term. Chiropractitioners may also share education such as lifestyle adjustment or more information about the condition and recommend certain exercises for you to do too. Moving on, I'll share a little bit on current literature on physio versus chiro and the effectiveness of its treatment. A quick search on literature shows that there's actually not many papers on this topic, and most of the papers are centered on the topic of back pain, and there is a lack of studies on other musculoskeletal conditions and a lack of recent studies too, as the ones that I could locate and I could find were in the 1998 and 2006. So these two papers were a comparison of physio versus chiro on back pain, and what the two studies found was that the two groups in the effectiveness or treatment was similar in terms of effectiveness and cost. However, do note that these two studies also have limitations in the study method, hence we can take the results with a pinch of salt. Therefore, with this information, how can we choose between the above? How can we choose between physio and chiro? Of course, it goes back to the point that it really depends on what condition you have. And if you're not too sure or you're unable to identify what condition you have, then I would still suggest that going to see a doctor first to get the red flags cleared. Then the doctor can give you advice on who or which physio or chiro you should see. There's this paper that I would like to share. The paper title is called "What Does Best Practice Care for Musculoskeletal Pain Look Like?" So this is a really good systematic review on high quality clinical practice guidelines, and I'll just highlight a few points. First point is that Good quality musculoskeletal practice would screen patients to identify those with a higher likelihood of serious pathology or red flag conditions. Number 2, provide management addressing physical activity or exercise. Number 3, apply manual therapy, or also known as manipulations, only as an adjunct to other evidence-based treatment. And number 4, unless it's a red flag condition, the first line of treatment or the recommendation of treatment first should be non-surgical care first, and only the option of surgery should be discussed later on when non-surgical care, conservative care, does not work for a number of months. Why I find this useful is because regardless of where you go, whether you decide to go directly to a private physio or private chiro clinic, I think these guidelines do serve as a good fundamental that if the clinic that you go to is able to screen you of any serious pathology, is able to give you advice on your physical activity, able to give you some exercises. Yes, they use other treatments, but that is in addition to exercises or in addition to sharing more about the condition, then I think that place would be safe in the way that they practice, and that it is okay to continue going to that area or that clinic that you're going to. With that, I've come to the end of today's sharing. Hope it gave you a little bit more information on the differences between physio and chiro. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll do my best to answer them. With that, hope everyone continues to stay healthy physically, mentally, and spiritually, and we'll see you again on another episode. Goodbye.
And thank you so much, Yuen Yu, for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness, talking about injuries, which I think is very, very important. A lot of times, like especially for me as a guy, when we get injured, we kind of just like walk it off. We don't think about trying to prevent it or help it. We're just kind of like, we'll sleep on it, or put some ice on it. We'll deal with it another day. But it's really good to hear about these different things. And also today, we're talking about physiotherapy and chiropractors. So I really hope it's something that benefits a lot of us too, who are out there, who are playing sports and are going through some injuries too. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is today's Wednesday episode. Hope you guys super enjoyed it as much as I have. Have an amazing Wednesday service tonight. Don't forget to pray for your leaders that are preaching, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive.